that's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Thank you, Philip Kelton, for letting me know about the sound and the comments. It's probably for the best. I made a pretty stupid joke. Anyway. Yes, here we are now. Plenty of stuff to do. I hope there's sound, right? Yeah, okay, we're good. Anyway. Yep, I've already fucked up the beginning. Let's just go ahead and get into the show. This week, we've got Zorro Masters, The Art of Alex Toth, number 1. Black Hammer Justice League, number 1. Wonder Woman, number 74. Superman, number 13. The Flash, number 74. Event Leviathan, number 2. Batman, number 74. And for Trade Talk tonight, a big boy, Green Lantern Kyle Rayner, Volume 1. Should be a fun old time. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and start things off. I'm going to be relatively brief because I don't think people really care when I talk about Zorro, but I still like Zorro, so I like talking about him. Zorro Masters number 1, The Art of Alex Toth. Is this one, showcasing the art of Alex Toth. This is another reprint that American Mythology Comics is doing. This was originally published in Dell 4 Color, number 1, 003, in June 1959. And this was interesting because, like, it seemed like it was kind of trying to showcase this guy that's known for doing Zorro art or something. And I gotta be honest, I know it's 59, and so different rules apply, but this art is not very good. I don't know. Like, I'm weird, I'll admit. Like, I don't even really like Jack Kirby art all that much just on its own in old school comic book style. Like, it's one thing when you can see it like updated, modernized with different coloring structure to really highlight just the detail, but a lot of old comic book art just doesn't do it for me, and some of the greats just barely skip by for me, and it's because the artists working today are standing on their shoulders. We wouldn't have the quality of art we have in comics today if not for the fact that we had people like Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, famous artists throughout comic book history. So I try not to shit on old art too much, but like this story is a comic book adaptation of the first episode, I want to say, of Zorro Season 2 from the old Disney show. So this says it was originally published in 1959. I'm pretty sure that's when that show was still airing, if I'm remembering correctly. It was late 50s into the or right about into the 60s. Why? I don't know. I guess it's still kind of a thing we do today, where we have the like Star Wars, official comic adaptations and stuff. But man, this was just, I don't know, it's so weird. It's been a while since I've seen that episode of Zorro, but I'm like 90% sure this is all 1-to-1. Like, I remember this scene at the end, and it's a funny ass scene where Sergeant Garcia gets himself in a sticky situation, and is being forced to dig his own grave. And he's sitting there complaining about it, feeling miserable for himself, and he's trying to talk the guy that's gonna kill him out of it. And then Zorro shows up and tries to, mime to Garcia what he wants him to do, and Garcia's like, "But I don't have a sword." And that moment was really, really funny in the show because it's such like a physical comedy moment. Like, honestly, you look at Zorro mimicking to Garcia what he wants him to do. We got motion lines around the sword and motion lines around Zorro's hand, and it just doesn't work. But like in the show, I remember it was like, it's very physical acting on Guy Williams' part. And Garcia's like, just dumbass, didn't get it. And that was really funny. But here I don't know, it's physical comedy in a comic book, and that doesn't tend to work as well. So, I don't know, this was kind of a disappointment in a number of ways, so I really didn't care for that particular issue of it. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and go on and talk about Black Hammer Justice League #1. Alright, so Black Hammer has been rising in popularity quite a bit over the last couple of years since it started, which, great for it. It's a really good original comic series. When they announced two things with Black Hammer, I was just perplexed, to say the least. One, there's going to be some kind of adaptation of it on television. No clue how it's going to work. So much of the comic is a commentary on comics via a comic. It's going to be a weird thing to do. Number 2, a Justice League crossover? How? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Where would you place it? We've not really gotten these characters to a status quo, and it's very, very evident in the original couple issues that they have not left this farm in 10 goddamn years. And so I didn't know how it would work, where you'd place it, and if Black Hammer was really the thing to team up with. But they did it. It's here. And so we open back on the farm. So we're going a bit back in the Black Hammer things to, before the events of issue 1, basically. And we're watching as everyone's kind of arguing as they do in Black Hammer. And then this strange looking guy shows up. I'm thinking it's going to be Mr. Mixelplick. We'll see. They don't ever give him a name in this issue. And he's like, "Hey, I'm actually interested in buying this farm. I think it'd be a great getaway place for some of my friends." And then we cut to the Justice League in Metropolis fighting Starro. Why is it always Starro? Like, I swear, so many Justice League crossover things, they go with Starro. Is it because, that was one of their first villains? I don't know, it's just weird. I'm just thinking about Marvel and DC's crossover, where it's like the Avengers had to fight Starro. I'm like, why is it always Starro? But anyway, so they're defeating Starro when some motherfucker shows up who looks just like the guy that's showing up in Black Hammer. And everyone realizes it's magic and there's something not quite right about this guy. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to give you everything you ever wished for." And he does some magic-y bullcrap. And the Black Hammer crew is in Metropolis, and they don't really know what's going on. But it looks like they're going to have to fight Starro. And the Justice League is on the farm. And what's really interesting is this little tidbit that Wonder Woman gives us. Would you two please stop? How many times are we going to go through this? It's been 10 years since we arrived on this farm, guys. We need to just accept it. This is our home now. What? Huh? And then we get like the last little teaser at the end of the issue, which is Colonel Weird drifting through space, runs into the Green Lantern Corps. What? Huh? I am intrigued. So I guess the premise here is actually going to be working maybe a little better than I expected. I think it's going to be kind of hokey. I think it's going to be kind of weird. I would not be surprised if the events of this, as far as Black Hammer are concerned, are erased by the end of the story. Just so it doesn't have to really contend with, oh yeah, all this stuff happened before all the really poignant shit in our original run. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. I do think this is really helped by the fact that Jeff Lemire is writing it, and of course Black Hammer is his baby. So I think that really helps. Otherwise, I don't know. Good issue. The art was pretty cool. Looked nice. Nice blend of the stuff I've come to expect in Black Hammer, and your more typical action stuff. Overall, pretty good. I thought this did a decent job of introducing you to the characters of Black Hammer for the people that are only reading it for Justice League. But I don't know. I got a kick out of it at the very least. How many issues is this supposed to be? I don't know if I can do a 12 issue of this. If it's 6, I could probably manage. I hope it's not extremely long. That would get really boring. Oh, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Okay, gonna go ahead and move along. Oh, shut up, Batman. So Starro was the first Justice League villain. I guess that makes more sense then. I guess that works. It's still weird. I guess. All right, fine. I approve for now. One moment. Oh, sorry. I came home and I tried to take a nap, and my wife was outside watering the plants and stuff, and she just turned the hose on, and our pipes are so loud it just made this huge squeak noise. It woke me right up. I couldn't get back to sleep. It was awful. Truly the worst thing that has ever happened to anyone. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Wonder Woman number 74. So G. Wilson is back. The Steve Orlando was just a one-issue deal. But it is definitely that they're in the dimension Chi or Chai or whatever, and Wonder Woman kind of takes off looking for any hint of the Amazon she can find, and that's when she runs into Empress Hippolyta, who seems battle mad and immediately attacks her. And she's like, I don't understand. We left as allies, as friends, and now you're attacking me and all this stuff. And they're the traveling companions that Wonder Woman has get involved in the fight and end up, tricking Empress Hippolyta into her doom, or by throwing her off a cliff. Or so it would seem. With inhuman strength, Hippolyta grasps onto Atlantides' ankle and starts to pull her down. Wonder Woman tries to catch her, and they're all trying to pull her up and save her, but the cliff breaks and they all fall. And it looks like it's all over. But then Wonder Woman lands safely in a field. Maybe not super safely. And sees that she is around her Amazon sisters and is super happy. She thought she would never be able to find the Amazons again. And it looks like there's some kind of strangeness going on, that the Amazons fled at the death of Ares, which was the beginning of this series, which was the beginning of Wilson's run. And now their home is under siege. So next, the battle for Themyscira, and this is the beginning of the story arc called Return of the Amazons. Yeah. It's cool. It's. I feel bad because I got really excited when G. Willow Wilson was announced, and like I have really enjoyed a number of her stories in like maybe a longer sense. But man, I just really liked the stuff Stephen Orlando was doing on Wonder Woman, and it was kind of weird to have him back for just one issue, and for that to have been an issue that I really, really enjoyed compared to a lot of the other G. Willow Wilson issues. I'm like, yeah, this is good. This is cool. This is fine. I don't know. What can you do? Oh well, just gonna keep moving on. I don't really have much else to say about it. It's just continuing the story. Alright, next we have Superman number 13. It's a bunch of Krypton stuff. It's Jor-El's last days on Krypton, and apparently he knew the Council of the Blue Guys and was trying to talk to them. We've got an answer for who one of them is, besides the Guardian, Aliapsa. One of them is a Thanagarian, the dude with the goggles there, from Thanagar. So, that cool, I guess. Or wait, is it the dude with the goggles, or is it the other guy? Yeah, I think it's Goggle Man. So apparently Jor-El had been like talking to them before the planet was destroyed, and he was like a member of the council. And I'm like, this is getting complicated. Oh man. So anyway, that's seriously the whole story. Jor-El trying to convince everyone, and no one wanted to believe Jor-El, and in fact, like, it looked like everyone was kind of, lying to Jor-El, and there's like this whole thing where they're like, oh no, we sent your sector's Green Lantern to study the planet, we sent scientific representatives from our respective domains to study the planet, and all of them, they came up fine. It's just, you're crazy, Jor-El, or whatever. And then we cut to the end, it's just Superman and Jor-El heading to the remains of Krypton. And that was the whole story. The Stinger is part of the whole Year of the Villain thing, with Lois Lane getting something from a Lex robot that we don't know what it is. Okay. I don't know. I have no reaction to this. It's Abandoned John, which might just be for the best. Is he in Supergirl right now? Is anyone reading Supergirl? Because he kind of left with her, so I assume that he's kicking around with her right now as a teenager. Oh, speaking of John Kent, here, give me something fun to talk about. Just put 1 foot off each. That'll be fine. Lego Super Sons! Woo! Super hype. Yes, I know that John is significantly taller than Damian, and I am so happy about that. That works so damn well for their dynamic. I kind of love it. I thought about maybe I should put regular size legs on Damian, but then I was like, no, this is so much better. Yep. John is a bootleg, but I mean, just what a bootleg! They do so good. Well, yeah, you could make so much money if you just started selling the characters instead of trying to build a whole set around them. Like, look at the detail on his jeans. He's even got like the holes in his pants and stuff. That's great. Look at the detail on the arms. Oh, I love it. It's great. It's fantastic stuff. Yay. Shadow Batman says, I love how John is taller and that makes sense right now. No, actually, not even thinking about the teenager stuff, one of my favorite little exchanges the boys ever had was, listen, I'm older, I'm taller. Like, I love that shit. That's great! So this totally fucking works. I've actually got some Super Sons figures in the case back there, and hilariously, John is actually just a bit taller than Damien in that one. This is maybe a little much. I can't lie. That is maybe a bridge too far. I know they make like short legs that do actually move, because this is like one of the short legs where there's no movement of the feet, and I think those make it just a bit taller. So I might have to look into one of those. See if I can find pants like that in black to put on Damien. That might make it work just a little bit better, because right now the disparity is maybe a little too much. But yeah, pretty happy with that. That was a cool little find on eBay. I had to source the Damien separately, but hey, it worked out. It worked out quite well, and I'm excited. I'm gonna have to integrate them into my Lego DC scene down there somehow. What? Oh, here's an idea. Can I add a poll to a live show? Question mark. Stream options enable DVR. I don't know if I can add a poll live or not. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. Hold on, real quick. Go over in Creator Studios. I'm gonna create a post. Okay. I'm going to create a post. I need to grab an image off Twitter real quick. Save image. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post... Oh, can I not? I can't do both at once. That's annoying. I'm going to post a poll on Twitter. Or not Twitter. I'm going to post a poll on YouTube. And I'm just going to create some categories. I'm going to create some villains that I have and some that I don't have. It might give me a good excuse to buy a villain or something. Bane. What are some other good? Give me some suggestions, people. What are some good villains to have the Super Sons fighting? So far, I'm gonna put Bane as one. I've got a Poison Ivy, so I could probably do something with that. Because, like, so far their major comic villains have been, created for the series. We've got Kid Amazo and Rex Luthor. I could probably manage to create those, but I don't know. It doesn't seem as fun. Bane, Poison Ivy. Do I have any others that I'm not thinking of? I've got a Brainiac down there, but everyone's already fighting Brainiac. Got a Doomsday, but everyone's fighting Doomsday. I don't know. This is harder than I thought. The Captain Condiment, or Condiment King, that's what it was. That'd be funny too. Oh man. Now I'm just thinking, let me go look at my bootleg Lego characters, see what comes up. Ugh, this is so much harder than I thought it'd be. I thought I'd just be able to come up with like 4 or 5 villain suggestions right away. This has nothing to do with comic reviews, by the way. I'm just shooting stuff out my butthole. We got Big Figs. I could have him do Clayface. I could give myself an excuse to get a Clayface. That'd be cool. Why is it all bat villains? Let me just search like Parasite Lego. Does anyone make a Parasite Lego figure? Those are the aliens, the xenomorphs. That's a cool idea, though. No one's got a cool Parasite. That could be a fun idea to try to make. But I don't have enough purple Legos to make that happen. I'm gonna already shoot that idea down. Red Hood Jason Todd. That's a fun-ass idea, honestly. Oh, man. Man, this was much harder than I thought it'd be. I feel embarrassed. What do you do in that situation? Shit, I can't think of any other good DC villains for them to fight. Well, now I've created the poll. You know what? Alright, here's what I'm gonna do. Since I can't think of shit, who should the Super Sons fight in my LEGO DC scene? Leave your suggestions. Bam. Alrighty. Oh, and I could have... Hold on. One more second. I'm sorry. Copy. And delete this post. Image. Select a file. That's better. Okay. Now then. How do I share a post? That's annoying. I don't understand YouTube and their plans for things sometimes. I'm so confused right now. You can't share a post individually? You can't like link to a post? Here. Community tab. Go leave suggestions there. Alright. No, not what I wanted. God damn it. Community tab. Control A, Control C. Wha-bam. Wha-bam. Alright. We're done. I'm done wasting time on comic reviews. I'm sorry for anyone who did not give a shit about the LEGO Super Sons that took way longer than I should have let it. Oh, man. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, Superman number 13 didn't do much for me. Let's go ahead and go on. Talk about The Flash, Year 1, number 74. Or The Flash, number 74, Year 1, Chapter 5. This is interesting, because... Alright, so, like, when they did the time travel element, I was like, alright, I could see it. You know, it makes sense. You can do some time travel, and I'm sure that he's gonna... The turtle, who's the bad guy in the dark future, is gonna be, like, a threat, or maybe the threat, and the whole thing will be about stopping him. If Williamson is doing what I think he's doing here, this is actually a really, really clever story. Because what I think Williamson's doing is... He's making the DC Universe, our Flash, a good future version of the same Flash? And that's complicated. So, like, what we realize here is Flash saves old Flash from the turtle. And I mean, just, God, the art. Howard Porter does amazing work. So, the turtle comes back in time with old Flash in chains. And present-day Flash saves him, and they run off. And old Flash reveals... After you went back to your time, King Turtle made me use the cosmic treadmill to follow you, but he drained my speed at the same time, and my life. I knew this was going to happen. I saw it before, when I was you. No matter what we do, we lose today. So what Old Flash has just said there is he was always caught in a loop, a time loop, wherein one day he saw his younger self show up and taught him some ropes about being the Flash, and then shortly after that, King Turtle came back with Old Flash and killed him, and then took over Central City. And then Flash grew old in Central City, trying to save people from King Turtle, but never being able to stop him. That is Old Flash's timeline here. But this is the story of Flash Year 1. And so Barry decides to go off and try to stop that future from happening. And so I think Joshua Williamson has actually created a pretty clever plot here, wherein if this is Flash's new origin, he's the exception to a time loop who is able to create a good future. I really hope that's what he's going for, because if so, I think that's a really, really cool idea. I really, really like that. That's really fun. And it just works. And I mean, even if it's not, I gotta say, I am just jaw-dropped at some of the gorgeous art we're getting in this one. It's such a cool idea. The plot's all like kooky wackiness. And so that's whatever, but like a lot of what's going on in the story is pretty cool. And also we get the debut of the official Flash costume. He manages to perfect it finally. So, now he's the Flash we all know and love. So yeah, I think that's a pretty cool little setup that we got going on here. And then we realize that since King Turtle has come back in time, we still have the Turtle to deal with, and so they'll be teaming up against the young Flash. So, I don't know. It's very timey-wimey, but it's doing some cool stuff, and I'm quite enjoying it. So, yeah, thumbs up. How do I feel about Williamson's voice for Barry? I gotta give him credit. I'm not a huge Wally West Flash fan or anything, but I do like him as the Flash. He is my preference. And so, just anyone that's writing Barry, I feel like Barry's just kind of stolen a lot of Wally's thing, a lot of Wally's like shtick. And it's kind of unfortunate because, Wally was just a better Flash. Whereas I feel Williamson, to his credit, is, he's still writing the Flash, and Barry's definitely still got a lot of the post-resurrection Wally influence. But it does feel more unique. It does feel more true to Barry's character than to feel like Diet Wally West. I'll give him that. So that definitely helps things a bit. Sorry, I've got Legos in front of me and I'm distracting myself from the question. Look, I made a wider base for them to stand on because it was annoying me. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that one. Philip Cutton says, question, after you read my Lego suggestions, does Flash Year 1 take place in 1 year? Because I don't get why Year 1 stories don't take place in one single year. So far, technically no. It's the events of the story are all within present-day Barry Allen's first year of being the Flash. That I can tell you. But they're also spanning outward because time travel's involved. So technically no, but the events so far seem to be, pretty concise and down to a year, or within a year. I'm not sure how many more issues this has for it. It might wrap up next issue, maybe the issue after. I don't know how long it's going to go for, but I think as far as how much time is taking place in the story is about a year. I'd believe that, maybe even less, but we'll see. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Event Leviathan number 2. I'm getting tired of Leviathan talking. Like, that's literally all he's done so far. Leviathan wiped out all the secret spy agencies, and then he just talks to everybody. That's just all he's done. And I'm getting kind of bored of it. So that, and there's clearly something I'm missing, because we get this board that's talking about Batgirl was offered to join Leviathan, and no one's heard from her since, and Damian Wayne has surmised that Jason Todd must be Leviathan, but he doesn't think it's by choice. And I'm just like, this got complicated quickly. Bruce just kind of talks to Jason about everything that's happened so far, or in the events post all the secret spy agencies blowing up. So the question was guarding General Sam Lane when someone came in to kill him and got killed by Sam Lane, and the question got shot. Then Plastic Man went to go inspect the body for clues, and while he was doing so, Leviathan showed up and did what Leviathan does, which is talk. It's just a lot of, we're not so different, you and I. I will say I like this moment a bit. Blessed Man says, or better yet, are you or have you ever been an alternate dimension version of me? You know who I am. I do? Did we meet at a party or the Justice League? I'll give that some credit for Leviathan just being a talker so far, who hasn't really done much. That's not bad. That's a pretty good ass line. And so apparently Leviathan was a member of the Justice League at one point. So clearly that narrows it down to... just gonna do some math on the old phone here. Yep, that's literally everyone in the DC universe, including all the villains. But no, I like the impact of the moment, even if it doesn't really mean all that much as far as clues for fans. But yeah, that was pretty good. I was reasonably happy with that moment. But anyway, so Jason just kind of hears Bruce talk about all this, and then he's like, "All right, so we do have a suspect, though." And then Jason turns around, and everyone's there looking at him. And Bruce says, "I'm so sorry about Roy, Jason. I'm sorry I couldn't be there for you." And Damian's like, "I'm sorry, Jason, but I think it's you, and I don't think you're in control of your actions," or blah 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 blah. Whatever. This is a rabbit hole I am not chasing. Jason Todd did not organize the destruction of all of the DC Universe's secret spy organizations. You're not going to be able to convince me of that one for a mile. Whatever. We'll just continue to read and see where it goes. I did like the art in this. Like, this last panel here is pretty cool of everyone, attacking or chasing after Jason. I think that's pretty good. And I did like this little moment. I'll say that. I think, again, for me not loving the dialogue, I think that it's, or not loving the writing, I think the dialogue is well done. Well, nice to meet you, Batman. Don't. You trained me to. Why? Wrong question. Like, I like that. That's good. Batman telling him don't run, and Jason telling him you trained me to. Like, this is how you solve problems. When everyone's against you, you prove your innocence by doing the stuff you shouldn't do. And so I kind of dug that. That's about all I had on Event Leviathan. The event that will change DC Universe for all time. Event Leviathan. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and wrap up the single issues this week with Batman number 74. Oh, man. I really like this one. This is really good stuff, and I find it really fascinating. So anyway, Bruce and Thomas continue to walk through the desert, fighting with Ra's al Ghul's men along the way to the pit, as they call it. And along the way, Thomas is talking about this story that he used to read to Bruce every night when he was a kid. And it's a super fucked up story. And Bruce would wake up in tears, screaming and demanding to be read the story again. And Thomas would do it, and he hated doing it, but Martha insisted that he do it anyway. And they talk about that the whole time, and Thomas explains, no, see, it's not your fault. I was weak. I let you have what I knew was bad for you because I didn't want to deny you anything. I created that let me just... The book, for making you stay. Son, it's not your fault, it's mine. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You were attached to something, and then I did not have the will to deny it to you. Bruce, you're an addict. You're addicted to Batman. I spoiled you when you were a boy. I let you keep your terrors. But since the death of your mother, I have learned to put away sympathy, love, to be practical. You needed a low point. You needed to be broken. And now, son, after Bane, after the nightmares, after her, I can show you a way out, give you love and sympathy. I can give you what you lost. I can give you a family. I know our death started you here on this path, but with our resurrection, together, your mother and I, we can give you a life without a cape. And I love Bruce's reaction. Father, the reason I liked the book, the reason I cried for it, for you to read it, Father, it's because of the horror, because no one escapes. But every time you read it, I childishly, idiotically thought it might change. I wasn't tough like you, no, but maybe I was stubborn, like Mother. I was waiting for someone to come out of the pit. I knew it was impossible, but still, I couldn't give up the hope. And then he starts fighting his fucking dad. I fucking loved it. And then, like, the really interesting part is the narration becomes the story. Which is, it's a real Russian fable, and of course it's Russian. A pig was going to church at St. Petersburg, and the wolf met him. The wolf said, "Piggy, piggy, where are you faring?" And the pig said, "To St. Petersburg, to pray to God." "Take me with," said the wolf. "Come along, gossip," said the pig. So they went on together and met the fox, who said, "Pig, where are you going?" "To St. Petersburg, so please you. Take me with. Come along, gossip." So they went on together and met the hare, who said, "Piggy, piggy, where are you going? On to St. Petersburg to pray to God. Very well, take me with you. Very well, I will." Then they met the squirrel, who also went with them. But on their road they came across a broad, deep pit. The pig jumped and tumbled in, and after him the wolf, the fox, the hare, and the squirrel. And they sat there for a long time and became very hungry, and they had nothing to eat. "Let's all begin singing," said the fox, "and we will eat the animal who has the thinnest voice." So the wolf struck in a deep, gruff voice, "Oh, oh, oh!" And the pig followed in a tone just a shade softer, "Ooh, ooh, ooh!" But the fox came in fine and sharp, "Eh, eh, eh!" Whilst the hare thrilled the thinnest "ee" in the world. The squirrel also sang, "Ee." So the animals at once set to tearing up the squirrel and the hare, and ate them down to their bones. The next day the fox said, "We will eat the person with the fattest voice." That was the wolf, with his great gruff, "Oh, oh, oh!" So they ate him up. The fox ate the flesh, but kept the heart and the bowels. And for 3 days she sat and ate them. And the pig then asked him, "What are you eating? Give me some." "Oh, pig, I am eating my own flesh. You tear your belly up and munch it yourself." So the pig did. Then the fox feasted on him. The fox then was left as the last beast in the pit. Did he climb up? Or is he still there? I don't know. That's really unsettling. And like during that whole story, you just see Bruce and Thomas fighting, and it's just so brutal. And then my favorite part is Bruce throws Thomas at the coffin of Martha Wayne that they've been dragging through the desert all this time, and out from it just tumbles rocks. And Bruce says, "I buried her while you were sleeping somewhere in the desert, and you'll never be able to find her." And they continue to fight. And Thomas just doesn't understand. He's like, "I broke you. You were broken. You weren't going to be Batman anymore." And then Bruce says, "I remember the alley, seeing you. In that moment, I learned the one truth. There is only one truth, and it will not be denied. My mother is dead. My father is dead. And I'm still here." And we cut to the pit as Bruce climbs out. Maybe? I really like that. That's just such a... it's such an interesting ass issue. And like, look at the cover. This is a really good ass cover too. As they fight at the bottom of the pit, you see the pit up in the sky. That's so good. Oh, it's so good. I like it. I like how the hopeless, vagueness of the story really does make the whole thing work together. And it just, it's good stuff, man. It's just good stuff. Oh, you can add a poll in life. Weird. Okay, my bad. Anyway, yeah, good ass issue. Alright, that does it for my weekly books. So I'm going to go ahead and move right along to Trade Talk. So, as always with Trade Talk, probably not going to do much live interaction. Hope y'all understand. Alright. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. This week we continue on with some Green Lantern stuff, hopefully a little bit better this time, as we talk about Green Lantern and Kyle Rayner, Volume 1. So I'd gotten this like a year or two ago now, and I was planning to just collect all the volumes that they were going to release before I started reading anything. And then I was like, man, it's been a while since Volume 3, or since Volume 2, when's Volume 3 coming out? And then I realized, oh, they're not collecting it anymore. So that's disappointing. But I thought about it, DC Universe has probably all of this, all of the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern stuff, so I'm going to have to go check that out. Anyway, so this is the beginning of Kyle Rayner's career as Green Lantern. And this is like, I think, the third or fourth time on this channel that I've had to review Emerald Twilight. And so if you're really curious on my in-depth thoughts on Emerald Twilight, just search Sid Part 2 Emerald Twilight, and I talk about that. Here's the highlights. It's very clearly a mandate, which is written really, really well for a mandate. Here's something I didn't talk about last time. The art is by Bill Willingham, who is actually the co-creator of Rotlop Fan. He did the art in the Alan Moore story. So just kind of a neat little thing to see some other Bill Willingham Green Lantern art. So that's all I got. That's all I'm going to say about Emerald Twilight. So we know the story of Emerald Twilight. Hal Jordan goes crazy and betrays the Corps and destroys the legacy of the Green Lanterns. Kills a bunch of Green Lanterns, kills Sinestro. The Guardians all sacrifice themselves to create one last ring, and they give it over to Ganthet, who takes it and goes to Earth and finds a little kid. He finds just a boy in a back alley and says to him, "You shall have to do the ring, take it." And that is how Kyle Rayner becomes a Green Lantern. Whoa. Also interesting, we got these little pages that just, give you the oath, which was kind of cool. With like all these kind of, great moments of Hal Jordan, I guess you could call it. As kind of a send-off to Hal. Just, I don't know, it's an interesting little thing to include here. I'm not sure if that was part of, like, Kyle Rayner's, first issue or something. But then we get into Green Lantern number 51. This is the New Dawn stuff. It all begins here. And so we kind of start, in the action as Kyle gets thrown into a lingerie shop by some, really nobody villain. And then it's like, oh, well, it all started a couple days ago with Kyle knocking on the door of his now ex-girlfriend, Alex, and telling her, hey, look, I'm a superhero now. This just happened, and I want us to be together, and we don't really have much going on between us as far as family goes. So what if, just hear me out, what if we just go to New York, you be a, reporter, take pictures of me, get all the exclusive interviews and stuff, and that's how we'll make money, and I'll be a superhero and save the day, and yada, yada, yada. And that's their plan. It's a really dumb plan. But so the next day they go out, and Kyle tries to do some superheroing, and he ends up getting through it, but he gets his ass handed to him way more than a Green Lantern should for such a basic-ass threat. But Kyle very much learns on his feet how to use the ring, which is kind of cool to see that he starts off at the Hal Jordan level of ring slinging, which is kind of cool. Or not the Hal Jordan level, but the Hal Jordan method of ring slinging, which is kind of cool. But Alex takes him away, and they go off to the beach and work on, kind of trying to get the whole using the ring thing down. And it's at this point that Kyle creates his new costume, because she says because everyone looked at him and thought he was Hal, so he needs to do something to differentiate himself. Cut to Mongol, who is, of course, the villain that destroyed Coast City, escaping his penitentiary on Earth and having a revenge lust for Green Lantern. And so Alex and Kyle are still trying to figure out how to use the ring, and Kyle's kind of a cheeky little fuck. I really like to imagine Kyle as, like, seriously, like 19 in a day when he gets the ring. this is purely headcanon. I don't know how old he's supposed to be. I don't recall it being mentioned here, and I don't know if there was like an official age that he started. But I really do like to imagine Kyle as like 19 in a day. And he's just very much, it's not that he's a bad person, it's not that he needs redemption, it's just that he's a bit selfish, he's a bit cocky, he's a bit cheeky. He's just getting out of that know-it-all teenager-y phase of his life. He's just starting to mature. And so, like, he's ring slinging, and she's like, all right, well, we'll try to make something more complex. And he's like, okay. And he makes Alex, which is it's a little... I like it here. I'll say that. I kind of know what's coming up down the line, but I did really like it here. I thought that was a nice, cheeky little moment, and it got a laugh out of me. She's like, Kyle, that's me, get rid of it. Like, that was cute. And he's like, all right, what about like a sword and shield? Very swashbuckling, yes? Yeah, but you're not going to get in a sword fight. All right, fine. How about a laser gun? So yeah, very, very adorable Kyle Rayner. Anyway, so Mongol escapes prison and heads off to confront Green Lantern, and he does just kind of right away. And Kyle kind of starts getting his ass handed to him immediately. But luckily, Superman shows up during the fight, and Kyle and Superman start working together to defeat Mongol. And it's at this point that, like, Kyle starts to utilize some of the stuff about him as a Green Lantern that makes him really unique. For example, Hal wouldn't have been able to hurt Mongol with the ring because Mongol's skin is yellow. And that's just surprising. Which is, I don't know, that's like kind of it's a weird thing to try to remember because I became a Green Lantern fan after that element was removed. I became a Green Lantern fan sans Green Lantern yellow kryptonite. But like this was like a big shocking moment at the time. So it's just kind of a neat thing to get into right there. Anyway, they work together and defeat Mongol, which is pretty cool to see them do, and Superman's actually really impressed, and Green Lantern's like, kind of like, man, I just met Superman. I just got in a fight, and Superman was there as my backup. And, he does a lot of really creative things. There's actually a note by Ron Marz at the end of this. I want to read just a little bit of the end of it, as Ron Marz is just going through thanking people. Darryl Banks, another relative newcomer at DC's stable at the time, wisely was chosen as the penciler to usher in the new Green Lantern. In addition to his clean, realistic work in the pages of the book, Darryl's responsible for Kyle's new nifty costume. I campaigned to keep the traditional Hal uniform, shows what I know. Editor Kevin Dooley coached, cajoled, and kept me pointed in the right direction. We also have Kevin to thank for the ever-popular no boxing gloves dictum. And that's actually a really interesting thing that was kind of going on at DC in the editorial thing for when Kyle was made the official Green Lantern. One of the things, like DC actually, they're like any company, they did some research, they did some testing of the markets, and they found that one thing that annoyed people about Hal Jordan was, well, he always just made boxing gloves and fists, and just, it was the same four constructs over and over again. When really, it's a ring that can create anything you can think of. It should be more creative than that. And the rule then became for Kyle, no boxing gloves, but also Kyle will never make the same construct twice. And that's not 100%. Like, okay, yeah, he made a broadsword this time and he made a rapier this time. Like, it's not 100%. Like, everything's super creative and unique. But it was just the idea to try to give more variety to Kyle. And it's interesting because I don't think you necessarily... You probably would have, but it wouldn't have been as easy for an artist to do back in the Silver Age or even the Bronze Age. You really couldn't have done this until you start to get into the modern age with Kyle, because Kyle exists as the internet starts to take off, so artists can now look at things for reference that they never had the chance to before. So it's just really interesting in that regard. So yeah, Kyle teams up with Superman. It's kind of a big deal. Meanwhile, there was a chunk of green rock in the alley where Kyle got his ring that some shadowy government organization has gotten a hold of. And they want to track down the Green Lantern ring because they think they can use it for themselves. So they hire Major Force to do it. And this is where things start to get awkward. So Kyle and Alex, their romance is picking back up. Things are looking up for these bright and happy young kids. Yippee. When Kyle has to go out to do some superheroing during the day. And again, I'm going to let it pass for now. I'm going to show it to you, but I'm going to let it pass for now. Because we show Alex, just very sexualized here. As, her and Kyle are, like, getting back together. Their relationship's developing more. And it's one of those cases where I can't argue against it right now. Like I said earlier, when we saw Kyle creating a construct of Alex in a bikini and all that stuff, it works then. And her, being drawn very attractively as her and Kyle start to get closer again, it works for now. Things start to get awkward as the story goes on, though. So, anyways, Major Force tracks down Alex's apartment while Kyle's off doing some superheroing that's connected to the whole 0 hour crisis, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And that's when Major Force breaks into the apartment and fridges Alex. God. Chokes her out on the kitchen floor. He looks over at the fridge and says, "I'm hungry." Kyle comes home and sees Alex's body stuffed up in the fridge. It's one of those moments in comic books, of course, the whole fridging your female characters thing has become very controversial in the modern age, and it's one of those things where I think it's just a problem in general with writing. I guess this is my controversial opinion. Fridging is something, while I do agree it seems to happen particularly to female characters, it's not something I think is inherently sexist. I think it's just this inherent sexism of superheroes being more of a male genre thing, coupled with the lazy-ish writing of, all you have to do to motivate a superhero is kill someone close to them. That's really, those two kind of go hand in hand. So fridging characters is not something, killing a female character to motivate your male superhero is something I don't think that in and of itself is sexist. I think the problem is we have so many male superheroes motivated by violence against women that it's man, this is a trend. And there's just if it were more, I guess if it were more evenly spread out, we wouldn't think of that much of it, but because it is so one-sided, it does become a real problem in that sense. So, you see Kyle's girlfriend stuffed in the fridge 2 issues after she was introduced. And you're just really? Was it? It's not the problem. It's just the easiest example because Alex is probably the least developed character that you can see this happen to. Which is a shame because she's kind of interesting because she was going to be... She's set up to be kind of, Kyle's voice of reason and kind of... not as Alfred, to really be the one that's kind of there telling him, listen, get your fucking head in the game, kid. Like, it's weird. I like to imagine, Kyle is like 19 in a day. I like to imagine Alex is maybe like 25, which is one of those, like, that's a little awkward of a relationship, but she probably knows it. Like, headcanon, they met at a bar that Kyle snuck into, and he just happened to look old enough that she didn't think anything of it, because it's maybe like a college town. And then she finds out, and she's like, God, we can't do this. She's like, but hey, I'm fucking sexy, and I'm 19 in a day. And she's like, fuck, why am I doing this to myself? That's how I like to imagine their relationship. And again, that's nothing that's in the book necessarily. I'm maybe reading between the panels a little bit, but that's my headcanon for it. So anyways, Kyle fights Major Force, and really he's pretty much kicking dude's ass when we finally go to the classic Green Lantern gimmick of he runs out of juice. But this is surprising, this is unique, because Kyle has had the ring for days now, and this is the first time he's run out of juice. So that's surprising. Anyway, the fight continues with Kyle getting his ass handed to him. And Major Force says, alright, kid, now I'm not going to kill you yet. First, I want you to tell me what's so special about this rock. And Kyle reaches out for it, and it morphs itself into his battery, which gives him a full recharge. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. I thought that was a neat way to kind of make that, give Kyle the battery. It's an interesting, dramatic moment to throw it in. I kind of dug it. So with that, Kyle's able to defeat Major Force, and he kind of has to take off because the LAPD's superpower division shows up to break up the fight, and they want to question both of them, Kyle especially, since he's got Major Force strapped to a electric chair construct, which is a really cool idea for a construct. It's a little alarming that he's using it to torture someone right away, but at the same time, dude did just fridge his girlfriend. I kind of got to give that a little bit of a pass. So anyway, Kyle's like, you can't fucking be serious. This guy just killed my girlfriend, and you're just going to sit there and act like I'm at fault here too? Fuck off, I'm out of here. So Kyle takes off, heads to his apartment to try to grieve when who should be there but Alan Scott, and Alan kind of brings him into the whole 0 hour stuff, but not before finally explaining what the Green Lantern Corps was and what happened to it. And we get some just absolutely incredible art through that section too, which is really, really cool. And then we go over what just happened and what's going on with the 0 hour and yada 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 yada. Hey, Ian, why don't you talk about 0 hour? I've done a video on it. Go search Sid Part 2 Trade Talk 0 hour. You can watch that. So anyway, Alan Scott gives him that history and says, alright, now we're going to need your help in this 0 hour event. And Kyle has to think about whether or not he even wants to be a hero anymore, and decides that's the best way to honor what Alex did, or what Alex wanted from him. And so he goes off. And then that's where 0 hour comes in. We get Green Lantern number 0, the beginning of tomorrow, and this is the issue that takes place during 0 hour, where Kyle fights Hal Jordan as Parallax. And it's kind of interesting because they end up on Oa. Literally, you can see like the shriveled bodies of the Guardians. And what's particularly interesting about this is Kyle is set up to be a bit of a unique hero, because Hal explains everything that he lost, everything that happened, and Kyle feels sympathy for him and explains everything that just happened with Alex. Which, I gotta say, I feel that's the problem when you talk about Kyle Rayner and the idea of like fridging his girlfriend and stuff as just like a really lazy motivation. And it is. Like there's definitely elements to it that are. And there's definitely elements to it that are sexist. symptomatic of the industry. But I feel that Green Lantern number 0 puts it into a wider context that doesn't justify it, but it makes it more impactful than it is on its own. Let me put it that way. Because fridging his girlfriend as a motivation is kind of messed up, obviously. Fridging Hal Jordan's entire city as a motivation for him to become a villain is also pretty messed up. And to have the characters talk about that and have Kyle kind of see where Hal is coming from on this whole I want to reshape the universe and correct every wrong at once, you can kind of see where these characters are going to see eye to eye a little bit. And that makes Kyle feel sympathy for Hal. And so he decides, all right, well, maybe you do deserve this ring more than I do. Maybe you know what you're doing more. I mean, all I've done is get someone I cared about killed. And so Hal takes the ring and immediately goes back to doing the parallax shit. And Kyle's like, no, wait, I wanted to still talk. Just give me the ring back. Let's just keep talking. And it doesn't work. It just turns into another big fight. Only now Kyle is down the Green Lantern ring. And he has to try to fight Hal Jordan, one of the best Green Lanterns ever, with no ring of his own. And luckily he is able to kind of get the drop on Hal and take the ring and finally able to defeat him in the end by blowing up Oa, since that was where Hal was getting his power from. And then the rest of it ends in 0 hour. Yeah, not really worth reading anyway. But yeah, Kyle's off in space now, and unfortunately, being a Earthman on Oa, which he just blew up for his first time, Kyle don't know how to get home. And so this last little section of the book has some of my favorite stuff in it, where Kyle's just kind of going around the universe trying to figure out how to get home. So he stops in an alien bar and is asking for directions to Earth. But people are like, oh, hey, that's the Green Lantern. I thought they were all dead or something. And some people pick a fight with him, so he's getting in a fight and yada yada yada. When another Green Lantern shows up and helps Kyle win the fight, and she and Kyle talk, and she's like, yeah, I was a Green Lantern. It was the only thing I was ever good at. I loved being a Green Lantern. But my ring just stopped working one day, and luckily I was able to get to safety when that happened, but now I don't know if I can ever be anything else. And Kyle's like, oh, yeah, I totally feel so bad for you. But I can totally relate, because I've been through some really hard stuff too lately. Would you maybe want to fuck? And the thing about that is, this scene would be, again, more of an issue for me if not for the way in which it ends, which I think is interesting. Because she seduces him, and Kyle wakes up without his goddamn ring. And he spends the day searching for her when he finally has the realization of where she'll be. And he's able to find her, and she's super disappointed because the ring doesn't work for her. So she ends up realizing, this ring, you're it. You're all that's left of the Green Lantern Corps. And Kyle tries to talk to her, tries to help, but he really can't. And she tells him, just go away. He's like, okay, I'm sorry. And he walks away, and she kills herself because she can never be a Green Lantern again. And he's immediately broken up by that and just has to get off that planet and start heading out into space. That's when he runs into a giant ship. And I really, really liked that issue. Again, there's undeniably this undercurrent of all the bad things are happening to women and Hal Jordan in this series. And so I think if you want to critique Kyle Rayner's early days as a very not necessarily hostile toward women, but very willing to use women as cannon fodder for Kyle's motivation, I completely have to agree with you. I think that it's a little iffy how much it's just, oh yeah, Kyle slept with this woman and now she died. And like, I think the funny thing is that has been Kyle's like whole shtick, is like, you know, Batman's like, hey, you want to know my secret identity? And Kyle's whole shtick is, hey, you want to fuck so your life can go to hell and then you can just get killed? That seems to be like Kyle's thing. It's just all of Kyle Rayner's girlfriends just go through some shit. So that's kind of interesting. Hey, you're suicidal? You want to fuck Kyle Rayner? So that is an unfortunate thing of just, it seems to be like a weight on Kyle as a character to have a lot of these really negative things happen with female characters in his vicinity. And I do think that's a fair thing to critique. At the same time, there is something to that like poignancy of that scene of like, you're all that's left and I'm never going to be a Green Lantern. That was the only thing I had. That was the only thing I was ever good at. It was my one true calling, and I can never do it again. My life is meaningless now. Just take the ring and go. I like it. That's got some real tragedy, some real pathos to it. And if it was isolated on its own, it wouldn't matter that it was a female character. It's the fact that it just happened after we had a fridging of another female character, you know? The next issue is Rebels 94, number 1, with Green Lantern guest starring. This was interesting. So at the end of the last story, Kyle runs into a ship, and beginning of this story, Kyle enters said ship. And this is all wrapped up in a book called Rebels, which I'm assuming is an acronym for something. And I found this issue really interesting in light of Tom King's Omega Men. I actually messaged Tom King about this on Twitter because I was curious if he'd like read that before writing Omega Man or anything. He's like, no, I read the series as a kid, but I don't think I read that particular issue. And it's interesting because Kyle ends up on this, you know, ship, and the ship is in pursuit of some rebel terrorists. And Kyle's like, oh, well, I'll help you catch them. That's fine. I'm a superhero now. I'm doing my thing. And the rebel terrorists realize that a Green Lantern's on that ship, and they're like, okay, I've got an idea. So they go to a planet with like kind of a Ewok-style city on it, and they do some really dangerous ass shit by flying. Kyle's in hot pursuit of them on the planet. Meanwhile, and he's like, I'll work with you guys to take him out. But then one member of the team is like, Green Lantern, what if you're wrong about us? What if there aren't any good guys? What if we endangered that village on purpose just to show you what Legion would do? And Kyle's like, is that true? Is it? And the guy's like, Green Lantern, you see that star there just below the right one? That's your son. Go back to your soft life and your easy problems. We'll win without you. Kyle's like, I'll do just that, murderer, and he punches the guy and heads off into space. I really like that. I thought that was really interesting, especially in light of the events of Omega Man, where Kyle's like, I'm getting a buffering notice on my video. But anyway, where Kyle's like, you know, willing to, I'll come in and I'll do this peacefully like any old superhero would, and then he kind of like gets wrapped up with the like plight of the people, and then he ends up getting so involved without realizing just how fucking dark it all is, and he's like, oh god, I don't know which way's up anymore. And it's just the moral ambiguity of the situation just gets so overpowering for him. So this is like a neat little preview of that to come. So it's kind of one of those interesting little instances in comics where something is like seeded for a character without intentionally being so. It's seeded and paid off later without anyone even realizing it's happening. So that's kind of cool. The last couple issues are part of a crossover with Teen Titans. Kyle makes it back to Earth and moves into an apartment in New York City because he needs to be somewhere where Alex isn't, where he's not haunted by the memories of Alex. He's pretty much immediately attacked by the villain Simon, and Simon's able to maintain or obtain control of Kyle's body. What's interesting about that is how close Simon is then to Hector Hammond. I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing. How one of Hal's first villains is Hector Hammond, the telepath, and one of the first Earth villains that Kyle faces is Simon, and he gets his mind taken over instantly. I don't know, that's just kind of a cool idea. So, yeah, Simon sends Kyle after the Green Lanterns, who are in the middle of fighting evil Beast... Or after the Teen Titans, who are in the middle of fighting evil Beast Boy. Whatever. And Kyle, under mind control, starts attacking and trying to kill the Titans. And then they have to kind of try to snap him out of it, and he eventually does. And then Simon reveals himself, and I don't know why he bothered sending Green Lantern in the first place, because Simon's got godlike powers that I never even knew about. I thought he was just a basic telepath, but he is like legit. We get some cool constructs that Kyle makes under Simon's spell. My favorite is probably this goop sticky situation to have a teammate put in, don't you think? Well, it's like some kind of gummy resin. I don't know. So I was talking with Alfie when I was doing the Green Lantern audio drama, and he was like, there's that scene where all the Green Lanterns are fighting, and you just hear the noises of constructs, and he goes, okay, so I wanted to try to figure out what each one of them was, and he did a pretty decent job. And he's like, and then there was one, it was just like, I wanted to say acid. I'm like, yeah, it was acid. He goes, wait, Green Lanterns can just make acid? I'm like, yeah, it can make anything. He's like, I thought it had to be, hard light construct or something. I'm like, no, they can literally make acid. There's instances of Green Lanterns making water. So I thought it was just kind of cool to see, an example of that, where a Green Lantern's making something that's not, your typical, it's a hammer but green. So that was, a neat little moment. Anyway, yeah, so once Simon gets kicked out of Kyle's head, he's godly powerful, which is something I didn't know about and wasn't prepared for. But yeah, so then they all kind of have to work against Simon together, and it's mainly just a Teen Titans story at that point. I don't think Kyle even talks for 90% of it. It doesn't take long before we start haunting him with images of Alex, and that is a rich tradition that does not go away literally ever. I don't think I've ever read a Kyle Rayner story where they don't mention Alex at some goddamn point. So anyway, they win in the end, and Kyle's like, hey, well, okay, bye. That's pretty much the end of it. They don't really spend much time. I don't know if Kyle's going to be a member of the Teen Titans going forward, if that was going to be a thing. It's weird because it's Titans together and you get, Kyle there. I'm like, oh, okay. That feels a little forced, but I don't know. I don't know much about that era of Titans or anything, so we shall see going forward. But yeah, I don't know. I really did enjoy this. It's definitely got its problems. It's definitely got those situations that are kind of common to comic books of being trapped in their time and caught up on the issues, the political misfirings, the kind of inherent sexism or racism of their time. This one's pretty much your typical inherent sexism of your women in the refrigerator and women killing themselves to make Kyle sad kind of thing. That's definitely there, and I don't think you can just straight ignore it. But at the same time, there is stuff that's in there and kind of interesting and does work on its own to some regard or another. So I did quite appreciate it. I did really enjoy this. If nothing else, just as a story, this would be something where I'm going to say, while there is political subtext to talk about in here, it is subtext. It is kind of just inherent to the piece as opposed to overt political commentary. And so while you can infer things and you can talk about things, I tend to like to take stuff where the political context is more inherent and just part of the time. I tend to like to just take that on its own, acknowledge that, keep that in mind, see where it's evident, and talk about it a little, but that's not the stuff I tend to focus on when I'm reading stuff where the political context is just inherent as opposed to explicit. And this is one of those cases. So I'm able to not look past, but I'm able to acknowledge the politics and look at what's still working about the piece here. And that's kind of where I'm at. I did get some live comments, and I was reading them like bits and pieces. I can't read and talk at the same time. Shadow Batman did say something that I did quite like, though, where he said, honestly, Marz's stuff works a lot better in retrospect because of what we'll get later on with John's era. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. That's one of my favorite things about Jeff Johns' run is, even as someone who hadn't read a lot of Green Lantern before that, I think one of my earliest comics is actually an issue of Kyle Rayner Green Lantern now. But it's just interesting because Johns didn't, now Kyle was the evil one the whole time or anything like that. He did really try to make that work, wrap it all up together, and it did quite work. So it was a very respectful return to Hal Jordan. So it's one of the things I always appreciated about it. All right, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, bye!